everybody, and welcome back to Spooky Things. We have had an interesting week. Probably a lot more interesting going to be coming up too. You just don't know. Um, but it's been quite interesting. I have got one of my favorite people on the show that I love having you guys come back. This is Micheal and Destiny Fox from Fox Paranormal.
Hey,
I'm
Hi
so
everybody.
there.
glad to see you guys. And they have a special guest with them as well. Go on ahead and introduce yourself to everybody and let everybody know who you are.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Britt, and I'm the team manager for Fox Paranormal.
And you got a tough job, I bet, huh?
Oh,
He
yes.
does.
Keeping up with these two, yes.
I'm telling you, you just don't know what you're going to do.
We
They're
couldn't do it without.
wiry. They are. They're like the wind. They're everywhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me what you guys have been up to.
Go ahead, Micheal. I'm sharing the podcast around a little
What
bit.
we've been
here
up
for
to?
us.
Well, we just relaunched a brand new show with
Uh-huh.
W.E.B.B, The Darker Side of the Moon, and
Cool.
it's been an awesome. Last week we did an episode, and it went really well. We're looking forward to bringing a whole bunch of more cool stuff every week. We do have investigations that Destiny's been booking. Calls are starting to come in here. They're trickling in.
Yeah, it's that time of the year.
Yes.
Yeah. It does seem to come in spurts, doesn't it?
It does. Springtime is always busy. That's when the calls start coming in, and then throughout the summer. Not so much. We have been known to do an investigation around November, December, sometimes January, but not often. Most of the calls are like right at October, September,
Mhm.
November, kind of dead months, but springtime, early summer,
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
it really does.
Yeah, what is so special about those months? But I know quite a few people have said the same thing. In the spring, for some reason, activity tends to kick up.
Well, in the spring,
That's
you get a lot
interesting.
more electricity in the air, and you're having more thunderstorms and
That's
stuff
true.
like that. And I think that may pay a little bit to it, far as generating energy for spirits to feed off of.
That's true. I didn't think about that, Micheal, but you're right.
Hmm.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Hmm.
Um, I know that where I live at here on this property, it's always a little bit of something going on, always. But
Hmm.
as the more I think about it, most of the stuff I think that has happened has been around spring and early summer. That's when I've really noticed a lot of it going on. So it does. It makes sense.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Well, they have
But
to draw energy from somewhere.
right, that is true. That is true. And it's funny that I never thought about that, but when you said it, it was like ding. Well, yeah, that would do it. But that explains a lot. So so tell me a little bit about the new show that you guys are bringing about because it sounds really interesting.
We've got big plans for it, and our podcast used to be Fox Paranormal Chat, but we wanted to spice it up a little bit and maybe delve into a little darker things than normal. Um, our kickoff show was Thursday. We talked about shadow people, the shadow man. We were able to show some photographs that we have caught and other people had caught. Also a video that we had, and it was just amazing to bring all these things together for a whole new
Yeah,
show.
I mean that's great. But your other show was also really good as well. Are you going to
Mhm.
continue with that one, or is this one going to basically take the place of what that one did?
Um, there's talks that we may just do that one on our page, Fox Paranormal. Have a more sitting at home kind of atmosphere. We used to do that on our page a lot. We would have a live stream weekly or every 2 weeks, and we would just sit around the living room and just chat with people, any subject, anything people wanted to talk about. And we enjoyed doing that. Nothing to replace what we do on the web radio network, but just something to bring forth on our page.
Yeah, sure. Sure. And you can get the best conversations when it's just off the fly, you
Yes,
know,
absolutely.
Yeah,
right? People
you sure
they're
can.
relaxed, you're talking, nothing formal, no pressure, and you can get some really good talks going that way. Really
Absolutely.
good talks. Yep. I enjoy that as well. Um, Now with some of the guests on the show, they're very structured. They're, it's like we have to do it like this and this and this, and it they don't do well in a non-structured environment. And
Right.
I don't, you know, so sometimes it kind of backfires on me a little bit when I try to just be a little bit more informal and just, we're just friends, we're just talking, versus the follow it with the rigid regime
Oh
Right.
yeah.
some
Have a
really
rehearsed
want to
speech.
follow.
Well,
Huh?
Destiny and I seem to do better with the town hall effect, where we try to communicate and reach out to the viewers at the same time we're doing the
Uh-huh.
show.
Yeah, and you do a really good job with that, by the way. You
Oh,
really
thank
do.
you.
Yeah, you do. You keep things like in an orderly kind of thing and you just keep them rolling. And that's admirable. That really is.
Well, the
But
purpose of the podcast is not to make it about Micheal and Destiny Fox or Fox Paranormal, is to absolutely engage with people who follow us or just like to hear us talk or just like to hear my Southern accent.
it is very cute, I must tell you.
Well,
It's very cute.
Yeah, we go up north,
But
and when we're at Paracons or things up in the northern states, I'll be like, "Hey, I'm Destiny Fox. I'm from Georgia." We can tell.
yeah,
Kind of
we
thing.
got a lot of that when we went to Virginia Paragon.
Oh, I think it was
yeah, what
Wisconsin
gives it
too.
away?
That's
Yeah.
okay. I'm just me. I can't help it. I like to say
And
stuff.
everybody loves you just being you. You're perfect. You're just perfect.
Thank you.
So, oh yeah.
The Para Unity in
Oh,
Vegas here a few years ago, that was pretty bad. Everybody wanted to hear her talk.
I know it's embarrassing a little bit, but I don't care. I'm a Georgia peach,
Yeah.
born and bred.
exactly. You were born and bred in Georgia?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was born in Germany. So I
Well,
just
I
kind
was
of fit myself
conceived in
in.
Florida. We kind of were like bounced from Florida to Georgia for a while when I was younger. So
I was born in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Oh, were you?
Mhm.
you dang Yankee.
Yeah, but I was raised in North Carolina.
Okay, we'll give you that.
There
Well,
you go.
I
That
love
made
the
up for it.
I
Yankees.
was a
I
military.
used to live in St. Albans, Vermont years ago.
well, I was born in Georgia and raised in Georgia, and I'm gonna die in Georgia.
And that's all there is to that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
By
I went
George.
to school in Ohio, so the accent in Ohio, 18 years old, didn't go over too well there either. Like pocketbook, I'd say, "Where's my pocketbook?" Your what? My pocketbook. Oh, your purse.
Your purse. No,
Yeah,
my pocketbook. That's like they always say there's a difference between a shopping cart
and a buggy.
and a buggy.
It's a buggy.
It's a buggy,
Mhm.
I just call it
you
cart.
know? A cart.
I
Cart.
call it buggy.
I was usually just go grab that thing.
I always call it
Get that
cart.
thing.
I never thought of that. Nothing else. Never thought
Yeah.
about buggy and shopping cart. And I just call it cart.
Cart.
Yeah, that's funny.
Sorry about that noise. Hang on just a minute. I'm about to be really unprofessional here. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Can you shut my door, please? Y'all loudmouth. Thank you.
Okay, Mom.
Shut my door. All right, that's taken care of.
Yes.
Okay.
That was very professional.
That was okay.
What wasn't it?
It was.
I
Very
didn't curse or anything. I'm really proud.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I know.
I knew you could do it.
We have faith.
A while it works.
You know, a lot of directions we're wanting to go this year with the new format of the show is, you know, we're going to be looking at a lot of elementals, urban
Yes.
legends, and talking about, you know, that kind of stuff, and, you know, trying to get people to give us their stories about urban legends and experiences, and we're going to bring that to the airways as we get them.
Mm-hmm. And also, we're about to put a plan in motion. We want to do like mini documentaries about urban legends. Like, for example, everybody has seen the woman in white jump off a bridge somewhere, or you can hear a baby cry or something. We want to go to those places. And
That's a great idea.
you know, just talk about it, give the background, the legend, and then see what we can get. You know, nothing fake, just plain out. We're there. You know, it mostly for the story, not for the evidence, just for the story.
Right. Well, a lot of times it's the story that creates the legend to begin with.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you can't. This can't happen without that legend behind it. And after a while, the story just becomes larger than life, and it is, irregardless of whether anybody's ever seen anybody there or not. That's what it is, and it is such a big attraction because hi Charles, hi Ronnie.
Hey guys,
It's
I love y'all.
it's just such a big attraction because they've heard about this all of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people just know the story, but they've never really seen or experienced the actual location where it came from. So you guys are piecing it all together.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's totally cool because now they get to hear those legends that they've heard all their lives, and you're showing them this is where that happened. Supposedly, allegedly, this is where it happened. This is what it looks like, and you know,
Right.
go there one day, see if you can for yourself. And I love that. You know, it's like giving accessibility to people who just heard it, and now all of a sudden it's like, wow, now I know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Not just show a
makes
picture,
it more,
but the actual location.
Yes.
Or just, you know, having somebody say, well, finally somebody believes me, you know, my story.
Yeah.
You know, and let them know that, you know, that they're not the only ones that are experiencing this stuff, that there's, you know, hundreds of other people out there that are experiencing just what they're experiencing. So they're not alone with it.
Right. And you know, that happened to me one time and I felt so stupid. I really did. And I was young. I was like 16 or 17. But this is the period of time where I saw a skunk ape, Bigfoot, whatever. And it was down in Florida. And everybody, and I didn't even know what a Bigfoot was at the time. I just saw this big hairy thing. And I was like, what the heck is a big old gorilla doing out here? I didn't know anything about skunk apes or anything like that. And I was telling people, and there was like 3 or 4 other people that stood there and saw the same thing. But everybody was like, oh, you're just drunk. You're seeing a drunk biker. Well, no, first of all, I'm not drunk. And second of all, there's no bikers here. So that can't be it. But it was really bad because in your mind, you know what you saw.
Right.
You know what you saw. And it's like trying to get somebody to understand, you know, about it. And it's like a huge blow to your ego and a huge blow to your self-confidence when you're trying to explain to somebody, you know, what you experienced, and then they're all just kind of putting you off like, you know, you're nuts or something. And so I understand where people come from, you know, in that area.
Destiny actually got a really good theory on on the Bigfoot or Sasquatch or skunk ape, depending on
Tell
what
me.
part of the country is what it's called. But she's connecting it with the alien side.
Possibly.
Well, and that has been discussed in great measure by very high sources that
Mhm.
that could be possible. Um, I know with me, I've worked with animals all my life. Worked in zoos, the whole thing, and um, I think for me, this is just me. When in I took classes with Ken Gerhardt, who, by the way, is amazing. Who's going to be at our Paracomic-Con too coming up
Cool.
is Ken. And the basic thing that I honestly do think is that this is an animal that has resurfaced. It's not that they just showed up again. They've just resurfaced. Um, and if it is, then it would possibly, very possibly, be a ancestor of like a Gigantopithecus.
Mhm.
If it would be the same animal, it would be what would be referred to as a Lazarus taxon, which come back after quote being extinct after so many years. But I don't think it's a Lazarus taxon. I think that it could be a hybrid of, or something very similar to a Gigantopithecus, because they were about that tall. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but how could they go for ages and ages and ages and nobody ever seen them? And well, if you've ever been out in the big terrain, the terrain of the really deep forests, you can get lost in there and never be found.
Mhm.
And a person is pretty clever. They can figure out ways of getting found. But if you were lost in some of these forests, you'd never be found.
Right, right.
What makes it
And
so
then I
hard for
read
them?
an article not long ago when some explorers went deeper into the rainforest,
Mhm.
and they
Yes.
saw a species of something that looked like a squirrel that nobody had ever seen before.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's still species of animals or whatever to be discovered. It's just in the past, nobody could get to the places that they are.
I was just
Right.
reading the other day. There was, I can't remember what species it was, but it's a species that's been found, and they said it was believed to be extinct for thousands of years,
Yes.
and
Yes.
all of a sudden it surfaces.
Mm-hmm. It happens all of the time, just simply because this world is a lot bigger than people seem to think that it is.
Yes, it
You
It
hear
is.
is.
about these places, it is. And you hear about these people on the news, or these places on the news, or you see pictures of them, and it's like, in your mind, it's just, right around the corner. No, these places are hugely vast. They're hugely secretive. And just getting to them is like almost impossible, even
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
today's advancements. Getting to these places are highly, highly difficult to do. And there's a lot of places out there, and I love it. People are like, oh, that's terrible, but no, I love it. There are islands that the Aboriginals from these islands do not permit modern day man to step
Yeah,
foot
Mhm.
on those islands
absolutely.
because you die.
Mhm.
Hey, to me, that just seems like a very simple way of saying, don't come here.
Yeah.
If you come here, we'll kill you and very possibly eat you. But yeah, we'll kill you for sure.
Over
It seems
medium
pretty
rare.
simple to me. I don't know. And
But
that to me is nothing more than a preserved, perfect ecological system because I don't interfere.
Mhm.
Animals are free to do as they will. They're not big enough to really eradicate anything off. So they're living in an ambiance with each other that's like the days of yore. And I personally think it's a fabulous system. So who knows? Who knows what are on those islands because nobody can get in and explore them.
Right.
So I mean, that to me is totally fascinating. It's like we won't ever know what could be on those islands because we can't get in because, invariably we'll be eaten by the people. That's all right. But I personally think they got a pretty good system. But
Well, they have a
what
right to
specific?
protect themselves.
Absolutely. Bringing in all that gunk that we carry, all these diseases and all this stuff. Hmm. And Teresa's asking, what specific types of evidence do you consider credible in Bigfoot research? Sightings, tracks, scat, audio recordings. Audio recordings to me are very subjective because so much can sound like that. Well, scat, if you could get scat, that could actually be, you know, scientifically researched. You can find out a lot from scat. Um, the tracks, yeah, they're pretty good, but mm, sightings to me, again, is up to speculation. What a lot of people think could be something completely. I'm telling you, a Kodiak bear, when they stand up on their back legs, are about as tall. And if they stand up high enough, they do look bipedal just from the way that they're standing completely up.
Yeah, they're very tall.
And they're very tall. And between the Kodiaks and the grizzlies, they can get really up there.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of what has occurred has been misidentification of another species. What do you guys think? You tell me what you think.
Well, I can't say photograph because there's been so many faked. And, I want to
Hmm.
believe in some of these photos that people have taken. And some of them are very convincing. To me, I'm the type person, I've got to see it. I have to hear it myself. I have to
Me
experience it.
too.
That doesn't mean I don't believe. It just means I want to see for myself, you
I
know.
agree.
And I almost think I saw one. I'm not 100% sure. There's a cemetery, Budapest, and we've been out there several times. We've been known to take new team members out there just for a place for them to practice and learn. I don't train anybody anymore. My patience is too thin for that. So, but
I
it takes
agree.
a long time and they don't realize it. They think, newbies think they can just go out on an investigation and that's it. But, there's so much they need to learn. And, sometimes I'll take somebody that absolutely knows nothing. And some of the best investigators we've ever had were people that we just took and taught them as we went. But like I said, I don't have the patience for that anymore. But Michael and I pulled up at the cemetery, and off through the woods, I actually saw a dark figure, and I could tell it was very tall. And I watched as it moved through the woods, this motion right here with his body. And so it had to be very tall because of the strides that it was making. It disappeared for a little while behind some more trees, and then it came back out. The whole time I'm yelling, Michael, look, look, look. This man is looking here. He's looking there. He's looking at. And so he didn't see it. And for a long time, I didn't tell anybody that I had seen that because, yeah, sure you did. You saw Bigfoot. I actually
Mhm.
researched to see if we had black bear in that area. Um, Probably within 50 miles of that area, there were spottings of black bear. So could have been a bear, could have been Bigfoot. I just don't know.
Yeah.
And what's so bad about it is I started to live stream from our page as we were pulling in and talk about the cemetery. And for some reason, I didn't do it. Had I just done that,
Oh,
only I had done that.
oh,
I
that would have
know.
been beautiful.
I know. Kick myself in the butt.
What I can't understand, that I've seen a lot of photographs people submitted and have taken, but they claim is a picture of Bigfoot, but I've never been able to find a clear one. It's always blurred
Yes.
or pixelated.
I agree.
Well, it
I
could be
agree.
too because they're zooming in to the point where it becomes grainy.
Mhm.
Like you see it off in the distance and then you try to zoom in on it. And the more, some phones, some camera phones are like that. The more you zoom in, the grainier that it
But when
starts
a
looking like.
picture reaches that point, it loses its felicity to me
Hmm.
as being accurate.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. So much could be hidden behind a grainy photo, you
Yeah.
know. So, but I agree with you. I've never really seen a picture that is super clear and, you know, it just it raises the doubt.
Hmm.
But I always have doubt and suspicion, but on the other hand, because I myself experienced it, I know they're there because I saw one myself. Charles says, when you smell that very powerful smell, you know it's something and you don't know exactly what it is. Man, is that true?
Hmm.
Because the night that I saw that thing, it was behind a airstrip. It was behind the runways on an Air Force base and down in South Florida. And I'm telling you what, it smelled putrid.
Hmm.
But I kind of figured it out later on as, life goes. I sat there and I thought, "Ah, how can they smell that terrible? Because there's other animals out there. They don't smell bad like that.
Hmm.
But I think it's what they're eating. Because back in those fields back there, they had cabbage, cabbage fields back there. And if anybody has smelled cabbage going bad, ooh, and it smelled a lot like that. So I think whatever it was, he's eating the bad cabbage. He's back there eating stuff like that.
Possibility.
Tomatoes or
Or two, you're
yeah,
talking about a large, hairy creature that
yeah.
doesn't take a bath. That smell has got to be horrible. I know my dog. If she don't get a bath for a while, she stinks.
Hmm.
And so, could you imagine being that tall and having that much hair or fur, whichever, it's bound, the sweat just felt that may be the reason they
The
smell like that
flies, the
too.
flies all over it and all that
Hmm.
stuff,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
for real. So that's just one possibility. We almost thought we were about to run into a Bigfoot one time. You remember the first time we went to Verbena, Alabama?
Hmm.
You, me, Tom, and Barbara, we were walking out a trail out there, and all of a sudden everything got real quiet, and we started to smell a strange odor. And so we looked at each other, and I think Barbara said, I don't think, we need to be running into Bigfoot tonight. Maybe we should go back. And I thought about it a minute, and I said, yeah, let's go. So we went back.
Well,
So
interesting.
very possibly we thought we were going to run into Bigfoot. There you are, baby. You're back.
I didn't know I went anywhere.
You
Oh,
did. You were gone for a second.
Oh, I would like to see more evidence of Bigfoot. I think we get better evidence of the paranormal as far as spirits and stuff than people's been able to obtain of Bigfoot up to date. I
I
just
believe you.
I
I,
haven't
I, I
seen
think you're right.
anything.
I think you're right. Um, that's because the paranormal has exploded. I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
everybody wants to go into the paranormal. Oh, let's face it, tracking Bigfoot, you're not going into a covered house. Yeah, you stumble around in the dark a little bit, but yeah, infrared helps you out there. But Bigfoot, you got to go out where he lives,
Hmm.
and that can be quite uncomfortable between the gnats and the mosquitoes and the rivers that you find yourself in at the worst possible moment. You have to go out to where they are,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's a much more uncomfortable situation. Not to mention, God forbid anything should happen while you're out there, you're stuck. You get hurt, you could be in real trouble being out that far. So I think people do tend to be more on the comfort. side. And that's why they kind of tend to go more, I think, toward the paranormal.
Mhm.
Charles says, every time I hear tree knocks or gibberish sounds, I forget to record it. We all do.
Yes.
That's the problem, Charles.
Yes, you get so fascinated with
But
what's going on and what you're hearing that actually getting evidence of
exactly.
it is the last thing on your mind. It's just like experiencing it. Sometimes it's just for the experience.
Well, I've seen shows, where people are focusing totally on hunting a Bigfoot down. And, I'm thinking, okay, are we looking at an apex predator and we don't know where we fall on his food chain?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Very much so. Um, how do you know what is the best environment a Bigfoot would inhabit? Well, pretty much said they're ape-like. So I would really tend to think it'd probably be pretty much like a bear. Whatever a bear would eat, that kind of an animal would eat as well because they've got a heavy body that they have to sustain. It takes a lot of calories. So they would be a carnivore, but they would also eat vegetation,
Mm-hmm.
foliage, berries. They would probably eat just about anything. I think whatever environment that a bear could survive in, a Bigfoot could survive in.
Right.
Um, but you do have to bear it in mind the heavy body weight that they have to sustain, and they have to eat a lot, and they have to eat quite often. So I've often wondered if they don't store food because is it possible that they could do a hibernation kind of a thing when it starts to get to be a little bit cooler out? Because you
Mhm.
don't hear of a lot of sightings with them in the dead of winter,
Right.
other than Yetis. But we don't have Yetis here. But you tend to see them in. Oh, hey Ben. You tend to hear about more sightings of them in the summer,
Mhm.
and well, really, in any season, except so much in the winter. You don't really. So I've often wondered, are they food gatherers? Do they store it? So, but if they store it, then there'd have to be a place that they would store it at, which would mean a den, a lair, a cave, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
None of that's ever been found either. So, oh, so many questions, right? So many.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
More questions than
And oh, absolutely. Teresa says, yes, like in winter, northern states would really get cold. Exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
Yetis, as far as I know, aren't popular sightings up north as a Bigfoot is, or a Sasquatch, which they would be called up there. So still leads you to believe, are they hunter gatherers? And if they are hunter gatherers, that would really make more sense that they would travel in family units. As hunter gatherers, that's what they would do. They would travel in packs, small packs, roaming, and sustain food for their quote tribe. That's the way that it would more than likely be. Charles says, I believe that some of the TV shows are staged. Yes, Charles, I pretty much think that too. I do
surely.
believe that.
I did
What
not.
makes you think that?
Surely not.
Don't
Stop
ruin
it,
my
I
image
say.
of TV. Of course, it's all real.
And everything still on
When you hear
Facebook?
Yeah, stay.
Teresa says, so they will migrate to warmer areas to follow the food. Possibly.
Possibly,
That would make sense.
unless they're interdimensional, then they're here and then gone.
See, there's a whole nother side, but you're right. That
Absolutely.
would bring a whole, yeah,
There's
that would
so
bring a
many
whole
theories.
nother way of looking at this. And after all that we've been hearing about this, so let's go ahead and go there at this point. The UFOs that have been noticed here lately. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen a UFO. Now, it was Christmas Eve. we were here on the property. We were having like a candlelight service. You saw it out there, didn't you?
I wasn't here that day.
Um, out, what is that? The east of the property that way?
Mm-hmm.
East of our property up in the sky. This was around the time people were spotting drones. We did see one. We don't know if it was a drone or what it was, but it would move up and down to the side. I actually think I might have some video of it. I don't know if it
Mhm.
was a drone or, since I don't know, I guess it would be a UFO. But it did kind of zigzag. It would move side to
Can you
side,
read
up
that?
and down. So.
Amazon.
Amazon drone deliveries.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. This was up pretty high. It was up really high.
Well, they've talked about alien visits, for years and years and years. I mean, it goes back. You hear the stories from the 50s and the 40s and the 30s talking about people that's had close encounters.
Right.
And, in the early days, it was always Martians. These people were coming from Mars. Well, now that NASA has a rover on Mars and we're getting like these crystal clear pictures, it hasn't caught anything alive yet.
It's true. But
Now, what if the planet has an opening, and we're only seeing the surface? I mean,
Yeah.
didn't you watch that movie?
and only
You
a very
watched
small
Planet
part
Inside
of the
Planet?
surface.
True.
Yeah. Just a very, very tiny, tiny portion of the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I find amazing. That they're coming up with, what are they called? UFOs, but they're underwater flying objects.
Yeah, I read something about that. Yes.
Did you read about that?
Yes.
And to me, it makes perfect sense. I mean, what's a better way to hide than in a place that we don't go to? You know, very few people have the capability of going down to those depths. We don't know what those machines are made of. We don't know how they're built or what they're capable of doing or not doing. So, their technology could make it very easy for them to be able to go underwater,
Without
and
imploding.
they could have an entire civilization down there. We wouldn't know.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about, a species that we know nothing about that could possibly be surviving in an environment that's so hostile to us that we can't survive there, but they're able to survive there. What better hiding spot could you have?
Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. To me, it's so totally doable
Yeah.
because we don't have answers. So it's kind of hard for somebody to contest that when it's like, show me the negative side of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't contest that either. So, Teresa says scary stuff in the Antarctica happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's some strange stuff going on up there. And Charles, they have found carvings and drawings from caves in the pyramids that look like alien beings. Okay, this is going into another area. Charles, I don't know. I'm telling you, with all of us sitting here, I mean, we have years of experience. And it's like, oh, that brings squirrel.
Which brings us back to
Be
the
somewhere
mic.
else.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, yeah,
Squirrel.
Oh, we are all over the place.
we're going Aztec here.
We're going to cover every subject before this hour is up.
It's all
We're
right.
pros.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
They do have a lot of alien spottings or UFO spottings in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Which also makes you think those glaciers.
Yeah.
That'd be a great hiding spot. They've been there for eons of time. Or they could have been there for eons of time, and it's just piled on top and piled on top and piled on top.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes back to my theory of the hostile environment. That's a very hostile environment there. What better place to hide?
Mm-hmm.
what affects us in the cold is it's deadly.
Yeah.
But to them, it may not make a difference at all. They might like it. So much is just possible. And a lot of people refusing to open up their boxes a little bit and seeing the world for what it could be versus that little tiny box that they live in every day,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and they assume I know it all. Not out of that little box, you don't. There's a whole lot more to this going on. Um, and what he was just talking about, um, have you ever heard of the Anunnaki?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The Anunnaki
Yeah.
is that's some interest. Now my son Devin is very knowledgeable on the Anunnaki and of many civilizations like the Anunnaki. And some of the stuff that he comes up with, you guys, let me tell you, it's like a head shaker. It's like, whoa, you know, it explains how things occurred or could have occurred that makes so much more sense than what they're trying to tell us did occur,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, and this is where it's fascinating, it follows the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's not taking away from the Bible. In actuality, it's confirming a lot about what happened with around the time of the Bible.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely fascinating to me that there is a very good possibility that a lot of this, and I don't think within our lifetime it's going to be explained. I just don't think it's going to happen. And even if it was explained, I don't think that the world is ready for that kind of an explanation. I think there's too much fear, and I think that there's just way too much distrust that I don't think that it would be embraced or even accepted. But the more I talk to Devin and the more that I read up on the Anunnaki and the civilizations that followed or came after the Anunnaki, wow, guys, it's pretty heavy stuff.
Well, you have that triangle that they've brought up with the Anunnaki, where you have the Anunnaki one point, the Aztec the second point, and the Egyptians the third point. There's always there's a connection in there. So there's so much
Absolutely.
similarity between the three.
Mm-hmm.
I think what always fascinated me, Teresa's asking, is there a volcano up there acting out? So how can that affect paranormal or supernatural activity or UFOs?
Mm.
You guys tell me what you think.
Go ahead on that one.
Uh,
Energy. I mean,
Yeah,
energy. Think about it.
Usually,
Energy.
a volcano, you're going to have a lot of static electricity in the air. And volcanoes, if you ever actually studied a volcano erupting, there's a lot of lightning around it.
Yes.
And what a lot of people don't realize, most lightning that we experience is the white lightning, but volcanoes, you have the positive charges, the red lightning.
Right. So much energy. Oh my God. So much energy. And it's not, it's also what fascinates me too are the tornadoes
Mm-hmm.
of hot ash and just burning, scalding, burning air that is just everywhere, spinning. And I mean, it's scary all the way around. I've never been around a volcanic eruption. I've never seen one for myself. But I mean, unless you're there and can really experience it, can you really understand the full immense power of it, which I've never done. But just from watching it is like, wow, I'm not so sure I'd want to be anywhere near that
I
at
wouldn't.
all. No, I think I'd be terrified.
Yeah, I
Do
saw
you
that
know the
movie. It
story?
didn't turn out good.
Well, the fallout from one is just as deadly as the
Yeah,
actual event itself.
yeah. So even though you're not getting the heat of it or the actual, you're still getting the toxic fumes and
Mhm.
everything else going along. You just can't get away from it. Charles says, "Do you believe in the stories from Area 51?"
Bunch of
That'd
them
be
I
good for
do.
you to answer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
there
I,
are
I,
things going on there. I mean, um, you could be shot for getting close to that place. So what are they
yes, you
hiding?
could.
What is going on? What's really going on there? You know,
Do you remember
last
not so?
go ahead.
Do you remember that not so long ago, maybe 2, 3 months ago, they were talking about somebody's coming out and they're going to tell the truth about Area 51 and they're going to expose a lot of things. Now I haven't heard a thing about that.
I haven't either.
I
And
mean,
then you
I
had
heard
those
them when they
people who
said
were
that they
going to
were.
storm Area 51 and they never showed up.
They were probably all shot.
Probably.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a good
They
thing to
probably.
do.
Oh, they
Well,
showed up.
supposedly they were going to declassify a lot of the files connected to Area
Mm,
51,
Yes,
but I've never heard anything more about it.
exactly. Neither have I. I've not heard a thing about it. So, um, we were talking about it over here one time, and kind of wonder if Area 51. I do believe that things happen there, but I think at this point it's a decoy. Everybody's worried about Area 51. They got a lot of things going on in other places, but they're keeping everybody's attention on Area 51. It's like, oh, they already know that something was going on there. So while they're worried about 51, we've got this, this, and this, and this, and this going on. I worry more about what they don't tell you versus what they do tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So that concerns me a lot more. Um, yeah, but that's the government. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
nothing.
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 No.
You just can't do nothing about that. But I don't know. What haven't we touched on? You guys were talking about elementals.
Mm-hmm.
I really put a lot of work into elementals at one time. And elementals to me are absolutely fascinating.
They are
Fascinating.
fascinating.
Mhm.
They are because they're so common and people walk right by them
Mm-hmm.
and they don't recognize them for what they are because they are so common. And supposed to be a certain airline that leaves Las Vegas airport that goes to Area 51. Well, I don't doubt that.
It's called
I mean,
Air
I
Force
don't know
One.
about
Probably.
it. He's going home. Oh, that was terrible. I am so sorry. See, I knew I would revert back sometime during the night. But like on my property right here, I've got elementals everywhere out here because my property got hit so hard by Michael. It took down I don't know how many trees around here. And what a lot of people don't seem to understand is when a tree goes down, then to an elemental in their way of the thought process, right? That would be like one of us seeing one of our people go down and then just left there. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So with all the trees being down, if you don't use the correct respect and pick them up, destroy them, do whatever you need to do, but you make order back to the ground. You replace order, which I haven't done. That's on my bad, but in a lot of areas. But it calms it down that if you put order back into what they were used to. And whenever I go into somebody's backyard and I see chaos, it's like, ooh, doggy.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about having all these problems with this and this and this going on. But look at you're giving them everything to be angry about,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're looking at an elemental that's a forest elemental. You're disrespecting what they take care of. And there's a lot of spirits. La Lorna. Lorna's like a big one. That a lot of I believe she's an elemental. I'm not so sure that she is actually a quote spirit. I believe she's an elemental. I think she's a water elemental. Um, just not sure. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way though. I really truly am. Um, but there's a lot of times that, I've gone into a home and you know, sensing, okay, something's here. It's not a spirit. It's not a spirit. It's very much alive. It's very here and now, and it's an elemental. So I really like the fact that you guys are researching, with elemental aspects
Mm-hmm.
because they tend to get overlooked a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really right, and it's really a high possibility that that could be what you're looking at.
Well, so
You're
many
so
people
cool.
have a misconception of what an elemental is, too.
Yeah, yeah, and they're actually quite natural. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, it's just simply everywhere, and they're just as alive as you and I are. It's just that they're natural little nymphs that just take care of things. They have a job to do, and that's what they do.
And their stories go back
But
centuries.
Mm-hmm.
thousands, thousands of years,
Mhm.
and they're not always nice,
Mm-mm.
But they're not made to be nice. Some of them are pretty hard to get a handle on. What do you think that all native? Why do you think all Native Americans believe in Earth Spirit and don't harm certain things in the forests? Well, because they live in a very ambient situation. They were very, um, me being Native American, well, I'm half Native American, and an elemental sounds like fairies. They've mistaken for fairies a lot. They are mistaken. And some people consider elementals as fairies. Um, but some of them are not very like, they're not nice.
Mm-mm.
But
They're very,
yeah,
very mean at times.
oh yeah. And make no doubt, they can kill you, and they will if they feel that it is what is needed to handle a situation. And they just act on instinct. It's like you go walking into bear's den, he's gonna kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something very, very similar to an elemental. It's a natural element, and if it feels as though it's being threatened, it can come back. You don't want to mess with an elemental. What's the difference between elemental and spirit? You guys want to answer that?
Well, I think you've already covered that.
Yeah,
They're living creatures. Um,
right.
when you think about spirits, spirits are things that you can't see. A lot of times you just feel them or you sense them. Uh, like poltergeist disturbs a home in such a way, slamming doors and da da da. An elemental, I believe, was put on the earth pretty much in the very beginning. Uh, the Native Americans uh, believed in them, and I think this goes back to Charles's question too. The Native Americans, indigenous people in our area, respected the land. They
Right.
respected trees. They respected everything. And to them,
That's
pretty
right.
much, that's where spirits dwelt.
That's right. And that's where the word kachina comes in from. A
Mm-hmm.
kachina is a totem of an elemental, is what they are. And they were revered and they were respected, and they deserve that. They should be revered and respected. But Native Americans really understood so much more than I think modern man does today. Back when, and they They did real well out there on their own for many, 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 many years, and they flourished. And so did the earth. The earth.
Well, they were more
flourished,
plugged into nature than we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they didn't take,
Mm-mm.
they borrowed and gave back. And today it's just taken. There's very little is given back.
Yes.
Yeah, and they didn't believe in destruction. They believed in, cultivating what you needed and then replacing it later on.
Mm-hmm.
So, man has a lot to learn. I hate to say, but I don't know. My dad used to. It was my dad that was Native American. He was Creek Indian, and my mom was full-blooded German. They met in Germany when he was in the service. Whenever I get in trouble and I do something stupid or bizarre, I'd say, "Oh, it's your fault. You're full German. You're full Native American. What do you think I turn out to be?" So, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. What a great way to grow up, though. It's just completely different cultures, and it was just fabulous. But my dad was very, very, very wise. We used to call him E.F. Hunting. Whenever he spoke, everybody listened. He didn't have a whole lot to say a whole lot of times, but when he did, you better listen. He knows what he's talking about. So, but yeah, it a lot of times, but this is just what I've noticed, is that someone who is tuned in to an elemental and understands more, and I think you guys would fit that bill very well. There's a certain, how can I say it? It's almost like there's a certain vibe or a certain done noise that you tune into with an elemental that you don't get with a spirit. It's almost like a low, I'm trying to think of what the word is because I zero in on it a lot. And but it's almost like there's a frequency that they emit. It's very low and it's very quiet, and it's like you can almost feel it rather than hear it. And that's how I know that there's an elemental situation going on. It's like you can almost feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because they're just so full of energy. They dart around. They're always on the go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hardly ever stand still.
Footprints running like little kids do. And we've heard
Yeah.
that in the house too.
Yeah, we
Like
have.
scurrying off.
Yep.
I
Or you
think a
see
lot of
something
people
peeking out
got
from
the
around a
I
plant.
mean, we've never
misconception.
seen anything like that in the house.
I think a lot of people got the misconception of elementals versus spirits. Lorraine Warren said one time she was talking about elementals, and she said it was under the supernatural frame. Well, yeah, because it's supernatural because we can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
She
Exactly.
didn't mean they were ghosts.
Right.
And I think some people took that out of context.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, they would hit more under a fae
Mm-hmm.
than a spirit, if that makes sense. Actually, they're in their own category. It is they are just so they command their own category altogether. But I find them absolutely fascinating. And I tell a lot of people if you're having a problem with an elemental, and this holds true for a lot of situations, because people complain about, I got something in my backyard. Every time I turn around, I see something peeking out from a tree, or they're doing this, or I'm seeing something scurry between the trees. It's an elemental. Don't worry about it. What do you mean, don't worry about it? Don't worry about it. It's outside. You're inside. So what? They're doing their job. Said, well, if you think that, something's going on, plant them a garden and let them know, hey, this is your garden. We can take care of it together. And watch and see how your garden grows.
Mm-hmm.
Give them something. They'll really appreciate that. And I've had a lot of people come back to me going, that worked. Yeah, because you respected them. Yeah, and you're showing them, it's cool. That's cool. Here's your little garden. Here's your plant. They like that. Something so simple, but It's a big deal to them. So
You
I've
know, the
already
Native
passed that
Americans
on.
would leave an offering in situations like that.
Yes,
They would leave a
yes.
offering of tobacco and fruit,
Mm-hmm.
and that would appease the elemental.
Exactly. Exactly. Same. You're right. As the same exact situation.
Hmm.
And I think it does. It goes right back to general respect. And so much of America, everywhere, it's not just America, it's everywhere, have lost that element of respect. And that's so disturbing to me, you know. Um, the one special thing that you can do in your life for another person is to respect them. And sometimes it's amazing how people react. The other day I was in Walmart and a girl was behind us, and Devin and I were checking out. I don't know where Sean was. He was running around somewhere. But and she came out. She came to our line behind us, but I knew I had a lot to check out. I said, she's going to see and she's going to take off. And she did. She went somewhere else. But she came back to my line, and she goes. She was talking about food stamps. Well, you think this will cover my food stamps? Would cover this? It was from the deli. I said, I don't know. Um, so finally, she got around to saying, I'm homeless and I got this to get something to eat, but I don't know if the food stamps will cover it. And I said, oh, really? And I said, let me see it. And I took it and I just, I swiped it. I said, here, go ahead. And she was like, what? She goes, well, I've got these other two bags here. And I went, where? Because I didn't see them. She goes, well, right here. And I went, oh, I snatched them. Boop, boop, boop. Here. Don't have to worry about your food stamps. Problem solved. you know, she was shocked. She was like, I can't believe you just did that. And I was like, honey, go eat your dinner. Go eat your dinner. That's all you needed. Just go. You're okay.
Hmm.
And she was shocked. And you know what? I knew I should have felt happy that I made her night, but in a way it kind of made me sad because I was buying a lot of stuff that I didn't even need. I got it because I wanted it, but not because I needed it. And this girl was just looking for a meal and was overjoyed that somebody actually provided that for her. You know, so it's just that go out of your way a little bit. You know what? I didn't even notice it on my bill. I didn't even notice it. Just go out of your way a little bit sometimes for some people, and it will make a huge difference to you. Like it didn't even I didn't even notice the difference on my bill, but you know what? It made a huge difference to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, respect really, it's a
Right.
lost
We
art.
we are giving people. We do a lot for homeless people. We personally know some people who are homeless. We know some people who are living in their car. We know some people who are living on the street, and it's like you just can't. I can't do enough. I can't do what I want to do to help
I
people.
know.
And Michael had the hardest time when we first got married. We went to church, and so I'm writing a pretty good sized check, and he's like, "Baby, what are you doing?" And I said, "I thought I'd pay our tithe," and he was like, "Baby, that's a lot of money," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, but it's going to a church." And I said, "Why? What did you think we ought to give?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know, about $10 or $15." And so he learned real fast that I'm a giver. I love giving. I love giving back to the community. Um, Also, we've kicked around the idea of starting Christmas in July for our team, a team thing for us to do, collect toys for children who normally wouldn't get anything. We just took two foster children last summer, and
Oh,
people began to help us with the kids. We didn't ask for anything, but people said, let us do something for them. Let us help them. And those kids had the best Christmas they ever had. I didn't put it on Facebook. I didn't make a GoFundMe. It's just people wanted to help them. And that made my heart glad. It's hard for me to receive because I am a giver.
It's
But
like we created a domino effect because of the things we were doing, other people started wanting to jump in and help too.
yes, yes.
Right.
So,
Right.
that is a project that we're going to start around July. We're going to start collecting toys for needy children. Um, I found out that through people giving to the children that Michael and I have, that there's so many children in our county that wouldn't have a Christmas if school didn't help, or if DPACs didn't help, or this organization or this church. So we want to put something together, and we want to give back to the community as well, because nobody had to help us with nothing for the kids. I mean, we had it, but people wanted to. And so it was hard for me because I wanted to say, oh, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. And then it was like a little voice said, you'll hurt their feelings. If they want to give to the children, let them give to the children. And so, now that made me more stronger wanting to give back to our community and other communities. I mean, it doesn't even just have to be the county that we live in, but we are giving people and we love helping people. Sometimes, I tell Michael, guess what I did for somebody today? He said, did you take your wallet to work with you? Well, of course I did. He said, oh my God. I was at work one day and it was hot July and I was sitting out front of my office, and the sidewalks just right there in front of the building where I work. And this lady was walking up the sidewalk, and she would run over to the grass when grass was available. And she got up close to me, and I said, that sidewalk's hot, honey. She said, yeah, and I don't have any shoes. And I said, hang on just a second. I took my shoes off and gave her my shoes, and I went home barefooted. I came in, Michael said, where's your shoes? And I said, I gave them away.
I've done that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ronnie's a giver too.
Yeah, I gave my shoes away last year to somebody else on the streets, didn't have no shoes. So, and it makes you feel good when you get something like
It
that.
really does.
It does. It does.
Because no old saying it's better to give than receive anyway.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
true. It is very true. Um, it's a lost art, and I think that the world would do a huge turnaround if more people came to that understanding
Mm-hmm.
that, in actuality, you get back tenfold when you give.
Mhm.
And it may not happen today or tomorrow, but it will happen. It will happen. But I've always told my kids, do positive and you attract positive. When you do bad things, that's what you attract. So turn your track around, start doing positive, and you'll be surprised what comes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them said, not that long ago, well, we thought you were full of poop, but you know what? You're right. It's working. You just have to give it time, honey. And you've got not only give it time, you've got to believe in what you're doing. Believe that you're doing the right thing. Do it with a full committed heart. You got to believe what you're doing. So, but you know what? There's a lot of good people in the world. There
There really
really are.
is.
There are a lot of people talk, negative about negative people and all this kind of stuff, but man, there's some good people out there. And I
Mhm.
just if I could just publicly proclaim every one of them, I would. But a lot of the people don't want that. That's not why they do it. And to them, it's just like God knows what's in my heart. And if I do something and somebody looks at me and goes, "You realize that you doing this is just whatever," my reply would be, "Yeah, but God knows what's in my heart, and I did it for that reason."
Mhm.
Not for the reason that what they do with it after I'm done giving it to them. That's between them and their God. But I did it for the reason that, which was good, to help them. I remember if something happened, this is Charles. I remembered when if something happened to a neighbor, the whole neighborhood helped out. Yes. And now it is totally different. Man, Charles, are you right about that?
Mm-hmm.
Except, right? Right? But I got to tell you, there was one time where I saw it happening myself. It actually happened. I was living in Homestead, Florida when Hurricane Andrew went through. And I mean, that bad boy came down the middle of 8th Street, the eye of it. I lived on 6th Avenue. I was right there. But my house was the only one at the time that had like all of the roof. I was like, whoop, I don't have any windows, but I got a roof. Hey,
And
no
then
better
the
than you.
wildfire in California, I was seeing reels where people actually, prayed over their homes, and they'd go back and the whole neighborhood would be gone. The houses would be burned up, and they would pull in their driveway. Look, our house is still there.
Yep.
You know.
It's amazing. It is. It's amazing. What we saw during Hurricane Andrew was that the entire neighborhood, everybody on our block got to know everybody because we needed each other. We actually needed each other.
Right. There
I
was
had the only
about that, how people came together in Homestead after
Mhm.
that. I remember
It was
reading.
amazing. We actually had the only one in the neighborhood. We had a gas hot water heater. Woohoo! So what we used to do is tell everybody, just come to our house, put your children in our bathtub, take a bath, get your
Mm-hmm.
children clean. We got a shower in the back, take a bath. Um, we had a generator that had an air conditioner in one of the kids' bedrooms. It was actually in the nursery. They were both real small, and we tell them if it gets too hot, come over because we've got the generator on this little air conditioner in our bedroom. Cool off. If you have to stay the night, stay the night. Do what you need to do. But the whole neighborhood did that. And everybody had something that they would contribute, you know? I'm telling you, that was a wonderful thing to watch. So I can say the
And
one time in
I
my
wish
life,
that the paranormal community could come together like that too.
I know.
There's so much. I read these stories, and it's almost like if you're friends with this person, we can't be friends. And I'm like, well, I am friends with that person, but I'm not going to hurt their feelings because the two of you are having a conflict. I don't get involved. We're just not one of those teams. I'm sorry. People can talk about us. It doesn't matter. We're not going to lash out and fight back. We're just going to let it go.
I've been in the paranormal a lot of years, and it's always been some drama somewhere.
And it's like that in any,
Always. It
clubs,
is.
even
Mhm.
churches, it's like that everywhere. But if we can ever, like, what we're talking about is totally, a lot of people say, well, that has nothing to do with paranormal. Actually it does. Y'all better be glad I'm a good person, because those saying goes, how you are living is how you're going to be
It's
when you
true.
become a ghost. So y'all won't have anything to fear from me unless you make me mad. So we're good here. We're good
But you're
here.
right. I think, just my opinion, that a lot of this comes in with competition.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, right? And people get the wrong idea about paranormal teams and research. This should not be competition. This should
No,
be,
no.
let me compare my notes with your notes and seeing the similarities and, putting all these notes together, we can come up with an actual explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
always like everybody's trying to compete with somebody else to get something better than the other person. That's not what
Right.
it's
Or
about.
because somebody has um, good fortune, becoming on a lot of TV shows, or they've got this going for them and that going for their team. That doesn't mean they're bad people.
Right.
That I just try to love everybody. Peace and love's my motto. So
That's it. When somebody does good, I celebrate right along with them.
absolutely, absolutely.
I,
Some
I
friends of
just do.
ours here recently, got the opportunity to film with some good people. And Michael and I were talking about it, and we were ecstatic for them. I mean, so happy that they got this
Oh, I loved it.
opportunity. And we even talked about, well, there's going to be some people jealous. And I'm like, not me. I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they had this
Absolutely.
opportunity. It just tickled us to death. That's a little old Southern saying.
I completely agree. I love hearing about my friends excelling and doing good,
Absolutely.
and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. And I mean, I am truly so happy for you. And that's just that just gives me the feel goods. It really
Hmm.
does. Is when
It really
somebody,
does.
that I know and that I just really truly do, hold dear, does good or gets this great opportunity. I'm like, oh, I think I'm more excited than they are.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Yes. A new
Oh
autograph
my goodness.
get every time we see them now.
I think I know who you're
Can I
talking
get
about.
your, you do, you do. Can I get your
I
autograph?
do. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
gonna
I
have
love both of them. I really do.
Yes, yes.
Just like, oh, I love them. Just like when we were on the USS North Carolina and everybody was talking to each other about what happened.
Yeah, the unity. There's a lot of unity there, Charles. Charles got to go
Yeah.
with it last
Yeah.
year.
Mm.
When we did that investigation, Charles was there with us.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's research. It's actually research. And,
Hmm.
people need to stop looking at it like it's a, afternoon thrill. It's not. It's not supposed to be that way. I mean, you can do it that way, but I go into it with this research to me, and I take it seriously. You know, I'm not going for the boo factor, although it would be nice to
Well,
get it. But
sometimes. Well, sometimes it helps.
sometimes,
Sometimes it's
if
fun.
it's a nice one, but a lot
Like
of times they're not.
I'm going through withdrawals so much. Michael and I were riding down the road, and I said, "I've never noticed that old building right there." And he looked at me. He said, "You're going through withdrawals. You'll be okay, baby.
And next thing you know, you're in there
You'll
next
be
week.
okay. It'll be all
Remember
right."
that building we saw? We're
My
going.
favorite times is when I do like investigations like the USS North Carolina, and we get to work with other teams and we get to
Yes,
sit
we
down and
love
talk
that.
with them, and we talk about the evidence and talk about investigating. And that, to me, that's what it's all about.
Yes, absolutely. I am pulling. I felt something itching on me. I don't know if you guys
You
can see this.
disappeared.
Oh, where am I? Here,
Yeah.
here, there it is. See it? It's a lead from an EKG, one of those stickers that they put
Okay.
on you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got them all over me. I feel like they mosaicked me with them. They're everywhere. I've been pulling them off all day. Good gosh. And now I'm got the glue all over me. Anyway, you guys, I've had so much fun with you tonight, like I always do.
we've had fun
We're
too.
Yeah, I
We've
enjoyed it.
enjoyed it.
yeah. I can't wait to see you guys at the Paracomic-Con.
Oh, we're excited in August.
I can't wait to be there.
I
Yes,
never can get
I know.
dates right when I'm trying to talk about something, so
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try.
It's August 9th and 10th
You go, girl.
at the Ozark Civic Center
Hmm.
in Ozark, Alabama. Be there and be square. You don't even need to be square. You just be there. And we've got an
Always fun.
incredible lineup. It is. It is. We were talking about it with Bill. You remember Bill from last year,
Hmm.
and from Nightmare on Elm Street, Bill
Yes.
Perry.
Mhm.
And it's true what we were talking about. It's like a huge family reunion each year.
Yes,
You
it
know,
is.
because I
It is.
don't get it is. It really is. And for days, months before, I'm telling my kids, I can't wait for the Paracomic-Con. I'm going to see so and so, and I'm going to see so and so. We're going to see all these people that I haven't seen in a long time. I'm so excited. And he's like, yes, Mom. Yeah, I'm going to be there. I know.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm just so excited. So, every time it starts getting around the Paracomic-Con, I'm like, well, this year we're going to have, well, of course, Lee Triana and Matt, Blaine Rohan, Brett Wagner, and oh my God, I can't even think about all the people that we're going to have there. I'm going to have to start making a list. That's what I'm going to do. Next week, I'm going to make out a list and say all the people that are going to be there. You guys are going to be there. I'm going to be there. My mind's going blank because there's so many people that's going to be there.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is August 9th and 10th, Deep South Paracomic-Con in Ozark, Alabama. And please come on out, everybody. I mean, we do. We have such a great time there. We really
Mhm.
have such a great, great, great time there.
Yes, and they're still
And
looking for vendors and volunteers.
yes, that's right. That's right. So you guys could actually be a part of it. Come on down. Go to the website, Deep South Paracomic-Con, and they'll have the telephone number and all the information if you want to be a part of it, if you want to be a vendor, or if you would like to help out by volunteering, or there's a number of things that you could do to help. Um, go there and give them a call and talk to them. And we'd love to have you there one way or another. You guys, it has been so much fun. Really has been so much fun.
Absolutely.
I always love it when you guys come on. I just love talking to you guys.
Plus,
So,
we revealed another
um,
side to us that people didn't know.
Yeah, there's more to us than what people realize.
Yes.
absolutely. No, you guys are very diverse.
Hmm.
You really are. And that's one of the things that are just so fascinating because you guys have a broad knowledge in a lot of things.
Hmm.
And that's always wonderful. Because I can do squirrel with you guys and you guys are right there.
Oh, yeah.
you know. That's so cool. Charles says, I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Charles. Yeah, we really enjoy doing it too. We really have a great, great, great time. Oh, I know I'm so blessed to be able to do this with wonderful people like this. I mean, come on. And I just, I'm just so blessed. I really am. So thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. And thank you guys for being here. I've enjoyed each and every one of you so very much tonight. Thank you, all three, for coming.
Thank you for having
And
us.
Thank you.
oh, are you kidding? I would have you on once a month if I could. Come on. So I would like to have you back though, right before the Paracomic Con. So we can, talk about the Paracomic Con and the people that are going to be there. I'll actually have a list. You want to talk about that?
Yes. And that list will
Yeah.
be growing and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so very much. Oh,
you're
Vera.
welcome.
Hi, Vera. Looking so forward to the Paracomic Con. I know Vera, right? This is our team member, Vera. She's so cool. I love Vera. So, um, you guys, again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll be seeing you real soon here, right before the Paracomic Con. And thank you, everybody out there, for tuning in. I so appreciate it. And we'll be talking to you guys soon. Next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, Spooky Things with Debbie. Thank you again. Bye bye.
Right.
Bye bye.